Hey everybody, James here with the Soundboard team. I am here with Jeff Olson. Many of you probably know him. Thanks for joining us. So Jeff, we're right up at the beginning of the Winter Olympic Games. So as a former Olympic athlete, we were hoping to get a little bit of input from you on how sports nutrition and the perception of what athletes are capable of and the nutrition science, how much that has changed since you competed. So, to start, when you competed at the Winter Games, it was 84 games. Is that right? Am I remembering right?
I'm not that old, bro. Come on, man. 84. No, I am a 20th century athlete. That is, in fact, true. But I competed in 1988, I guess, only 4 years later, 88 in Calgary, Alberta, and then 92 in Albertville, France.
Mm-hmm.
And then I made the team in 94, but I got injured and had to retire after Lillehammer in 94. So I was half of the 80s, half of the 90s was my run.
All right. So when you guys were thinking about prepping and, it seems like the data analytics and things like that with sports was just kind of coming into its own in that season. So what was the approach to nutrition back then?
Well, I think there's two kind of parallel realities going on here. There is sort of the application of science and modern applied science running down one track, and then it's conventional wisdom and inertia and habit kind of running down the other path. And with food, there's a lot of inertia and a lot of it's tough to teach old dog new tricks running down this path. And then from the science perspective, I'll give you an example of and it's sort of science du jour, but in the long run, science does catch up to the truth. But there was an episode in the 90s where science hadn't caught up to the truth yet, and our sports dietitians and our trainers came to us in the early 90s and they said, don't eat fat. Don't eat peanut butter. It's toxic. And we're like, that just didn't make sense to any of us. We're like, what are you talking about? And so that was their rant based on the science. And if you remember back in the day, that was back when conventional wisdom had this narrative of, that was the no-fat craze.
Yeah.
We had a no-fat era in the 90s where all the food companies made fat-free cookies and fat-free ice cream and fat-free this and fat-free that. It was kind of ridiculous. And so we all know that was a kind of a moment in time where science hadn't caught up to the truth yet. But that gives you an example. There's modern applied science and what we know and kind of the long game and the long run. And then we're all creatures of habit and what makes that body work, what makes it work better. The way I come into the whole conversation is to say, look, human performance nutrition, and the best example of human performance I can come up with is pregnancy. Like, that's human performance. Human performance can be an athlete at the Olympic Games, but what makes the body work, period. So I don't care if it's my grandma or Michael Phelps or Lindsey Vonn or my daughter or the greatest generation or the next generation or a type 2 diabetic or a type A personality. When you go inside us and you look at cells, you can't distinguish anyone from anyone. We're more alike than we are different. What makes the body work, what brings it to life, is good food. What makes it perform is great food. So getting the body to perform, physiologically perform, is human performance. And there's a lot of ways to talk about it, but pregnancy being one example. And so it fuels for physiological performance first and sports performance secondarily. And I actually think it's a higher form of sports nutrition, which tends to be a conversation around the habit and the inertia of habit and dogma, which is around carbs and calories and fats and macronutrients and basically a caloric conversation, which is not quite caught up to where modern science today, from a knowledge set, is. They're a bit ahead of where conventional wisdom is with athletes, and they pay us to go out and educate and enlighten. And so one of the areas that we talk about a lot in the plant powder, produce concentrate, juice plus business is around conditioning physiology with plant powders. And what does that do? Drives recovery, drives the adaptive response, we can help someone recover faster, there's an advantage there. So how it's changed is, I would say, I think there are a lot more athletes today, well, a lot more people today understand food is both a weapon of mass destruction or a weapon of mass vitality. It's a power tool. It's a double-edged sword. It can cut both ways, but it's a weapon to use well if you so choose.
So, when you're thinking back, because I was born in '78, so I'm thinking about my growing up, my Olympic heroes and my sports heroes. To know that you've made it was to be on the front of a Wheaties box, right?
Right.
That's sawdust.
Yeah.
So now when you're hearing more and more, especially I've been listening to a lot of NBA guys and NFL guys who are vegan, and they are finding their energy and their fuel and their protein from plant-based diets. Where do those guys go for those fats and for those monounsaturated, I guess, things that they do need for cell reproduction and those types of things that are essential?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's plenty of ways to get fat from plants. I mean, if you just start eating, the entire nut family.
Oh, that's true.
There's a good place to start. So nuts.
Yeah.
Certainly avocados. That's kind of the one vegetable that kind of comes to the brain. Coconut, another plant. I mean, there's a lot of ways to get, you can eat plenty of fat if you want to in plants.
Yeah.
And so I think we're past the no fat craze that died in the 90s, but there's plenty of carbs in plants. There's plenty of protein in plants. Well, there's less carbs, there's less protein, there's less fats. But so from a caloric standpoint, what athletes need to understand is you get to eat a lot more of plants. You just you eat a lot more. But here's the challenge. It depends on your sport, but most sports, in the belly of the beast, in the belly of a hardcore training cycle, you got to consume 7, 8, 9, 10,000 calories a day.
Right.
Just to maintain weight, just to keep up, just to kind of just get back to basics. I mean, I can remember when I was competing in my 20s, early 20s, I had a hard time keeping on weight. Because we were outside, we were burning calories, we were in the cold, in the elements, and just the level of matter and fuel and just food I needed just to maintain my weight and to maintain, my muscle mass. That it was a hard thing to do. So because fruits, vegetables, plants don't have a lot, they tend to be kind of lower man on the totem pole.
Right.
And they don't get consumed as much. And what gets thrown out is the baby with the bathwater. And what athletes need to understand is you need enough macros, enough calories, enough fuel and energy and matter, but you also need a ton of stuff that has no calories. And that's vitamins and minerals and enzymes and antioxidants and phytonutrients that all come from plants. And that's where the mature, older athletes are starting to pick up on this because they're in the game of physiological durability, right? Maybe in their 20s, they were like the Porsche and the Ferrari, they're machine. But you want to try to have a longer career. Physiological durability comes into play. And a lot of these guys, they want to just be like a truck, man. They want to bang their body hard. They want to get up the next day and be able to perform and be able to do. That's a recovery equation. And recovery, if you begin to dissect recovery, and I can do that if you want, but that has to do with all the other stuff that has no calories that you get from plants. And, poster child of the month is, Tom Brady, 40, he didn't, he just missed winning this time, but the guy's a gamer, man. You saw him in the third quarter. It was on, man. Yeah. He was coming. So at 40, he's learned how to use food as a weapon. They've got a private chef. His wife, being a model, she's a little more attuned to these things just from a health perspective. And so he eats a ton more plants. He eats he's got a whole chef. It's kind of set up for him to do. And some other athletes now in the NFL are starting to pick up on it. And what they find is it's cleaner, they're fresher, they can bang hard, recover faster, and they're starting to catch up with it. But it is a challenge to get that many calories only from plants. That's why I'm not saying don't be. I'm not a vegan. I'm a plant-based guy who eats a majority of plants. To me, veganism is kind of cliquey. Vegetarianism, kind of cliquey. And we know how cliques work in society. Cliques are like mine versus you. And like, we just need to eat more plants, period, end of story. Everyone needs to eat more plants. I don't care who you are.
So as we're going through the Olympics, so what's one of the things that's so fun to watch, of course, is all these personality studies that they do and these exposés on different athletes and their routines and things like that. Do you think that that diet's going to be a part of the conversation? Do you think that that's something that's going to be discussed? And do you know of any athletes who are on Juice Plus?
I do. Yeah, I do know athletes that are on Juice Plus. I can remember at Sochi 4 years ago, we were on the Twitter feed sending back and forth posts, and I think the gold medalist in slopestyle, trying to remember his name. I think it starts with an S. He won the gold medal in
I'd have to look it up.
It was the half pipe on skis, not snowboard. He's on Juice Plus. Bodie Miller was on Juice Plus. Not many people know that, and he was one of the oldest Olympic alpine skiers to win a medal. So I think here's where Juice Plus finds itself today is a lot of professional athletes eat Juice Plus. We don't pay those athletes,
right?
Just because we don't believe in kind of paying for the testimonial kind of thing. But a lot of Olympic athletes use Juice Plus because it works. We've got professional sports teams that buy Juice Plus because it works. Its body of efficacy coupled with its sort of NSF certification, sports certification, it kind of rises to the top of the list. I can tell you a fun story of we were dancing with the U.S. Olympic Committee on becoming their health food sponsor before the London Olympic Games, and John Blair and I were working together, and they were very impressed with our science, our approach, our simplicity. They understood how we were categorically different than supplementation. We were supplemental food, and there was a difference between, it's molecules versus matter. But at the 11th hour, Procter & Gamble came in and gave the International Olympic Committee about $250 million and bought kind of the whole home health category and kind of boxed us out. But what I was proud of is we passed the human performance refiner's fire. We made it through that due diligence. And they were very impressed, and they said 2 thumbs up, and then they threw us over to the marketing people. And this was back in the day before you guys came along at Soundboard, back when we were the official health food product for the German Olympic Federation, the Austrian Olympic Federation, the Swiss Olympic Federation. I called my buddies down there in Colorado Springs, and I said, what, are 3 Olympic teams not good enough for America? Like, pay attention. So we were actually helping them catch up. They were impressed, but we might come back to them at some point. But I was proud that we made it through from a science and human performance perspective. So
yeah, that's great. I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah.
So we won't be seeing any Juice Plus logos on anybody's jerseys, but we'll know that some of the top competitors are probably being fueled by it. So that's good to know.
Yeah, rest assured, we'll probably have some social media stuff going on, off the radar of primetime. Yeah, athletes will be from all over the world. From all over the world would be consuming Juice Plus. I can remember the French ski team. That's one of the professional teams that kind of just put Juice Plus on the map. This was about 10 years ago. The whole French ski team started taking it.
Huh. Cool. Well, Jeff, it's going to be a lot of fun to watch the Olympics this year. I know that's great to hear from a former competitor yourself. So thanks for your time today. We'll just be watching the games together and enjoying that. So thanks so much for your time.
Thank you, James. I appreciate it. Enjoy the Olympics, everyone.
Okay.